My spoiled stepdaughter falsely accused me of sexual harassment because I denied her $7,000 for her business, but I had security cameras throughout the house. And the messages where she confessed her plan to extort me exposed everything. I'm 46 years old. I'm a construction project manager, and what happened a few months ago with my second wife and her daughter basically destroyed my marriage and almost completely ruined my reputation. The truth is, I'm still having a hard time processing all of this, but I need to tell it because, there are things you just can't keep inside without them eating you alive. I guess I should start at the beginning. Or when I met Jennifer about 4 years ago, my first marriage ended pretty amicably. Actually, Lisa and I split up because we simply grew in different directions. No drama, no betrayals, just two people who realized they didn't work together anymore. We're still friends, which is weird according to what people tell me, but it worked for us. We didn't have kids, which probably made things easier. Anyway, I met Jennifer at a local art exhibition. She was an art teacher at a high school and was displaying some of her work. She was beautiful, intelligent, had this creative energy that immediately attracted me. She told me she had a daughter from a previous relationship, Nicole, who was like 14 at the time. The biological father, Kevin, had taken off when Nicole was barely 2 years old and was living in Texas doing who knows what, basically a completely absent father. We dated for 2 years before getting married, and during that time I saw Nicole occasionally, but not much. Jennifer was careful about not moving things too fast with her daughter in the equation. Nicole seemed like a normal high school girl, a bit quiet when I was around, but nothing that raised red flags. Jennifer always talked about how hard it had been being a single mother, how she felt guilty about not being able to give Nicole everything she wanted, how Kevin's abandonment had affected the girl. I understood it, or at least I thought I understood it. Looking back, I should have paid more attention to certain comments Jennifer made about how Nicole could be a bit demanding at times, or how she needed to learn about boundaries, but when you're in love, you tend to minimize those things. You know what I mean? We got married when Nicole was 16, almost 17, and we decided she would move into my house. I had a 3-bedroom house in a pretty quiet suburban neighborhood. Nothing fancy, but comfortable. I'd bought it years ago, and it was completely paid off. I thought it would be a good start for our blended family, like a new chapter for everyone. Jennifer was excited. Nicole seemed, well, not excited exactly, but not opposed to the idea either. I remember the day they moved in. I helped carry all the boxes. Nicole inspected her new room with this expression on her face that I couldn't interpret at the time, like evaluating whether it was good enough for her or something. The first few weeks were relatively normal, I guess. Nicole was in her senior year of high school. Jennifer was still working at the school. I had my construction projects. We had breakfast together some mornings, family dinners when schedules aligned. But then the requests started. And when I say requests, I mean actual demands, not normal requests. Nicole decided her room needed a complete makeover because it didn't reflect her personality. Jennifer looked at me with those pleading eyes, and I was like, what was I going to do? She was my stepdaughter. I wanted her to feel at home. I ended up spending like $3,000 on new paint, furniture, decorations, the whole thing. Nicole chose everything without even asking me if the budget was okay. She just assumed I'd pay for whatever she wanted. Then came the Paris trip. Yeah, you heard that right. Paris. Nicole was 17 and decided she wanted to go to Paris with 2 friends for spring break because all the girls in her class were going to amazing places and she'd never left the country. The total cost would have no include. It's been like $6,000 including flights, hotel, spending money. I told her no, that it was too much money, and that besides she was too young to travel internationally without adult supervision. Jennifer took Nicole's side, saying I didn't understand how important it was for her not to feel less than her peers. We had our first big fight about that. In the end, she didn't go to Paris, but she made me feel like the villain for weeks, walking around the house with a funeral face, sighing dramatically every time she passed near me. Then, she crashed the car. She'd had her license for less than 6 months when she decided she needed to go to a party like 40 minutes away on a rainy night. I told her no, that the conditions weren't good, and it was too far for a novice driver. She went anyway, took Jennifer's car keys, and just left. She crashed into a fence on the way back. It wasn't terrible, but the car needed like $4,000 in repairs. Consequences? None, really. Jennifer cried, said she was grateful Nicole was okay, and we basically overlooked the fact that she had completely disobeyed and driven irresponsibly. I tried to implement some kind of punishment, take away her driving privileges for a month, but Jennifer convinced me she'd learned her lesson from the scare of the accident. Then she showed up with a dog. One day she just came home with a golden retriever puppy, without consulting anyone, without discussing responsibilities. Nothing. She said a friend urgently needed to find it a home, and she couldn't resist. Jennifer thought it was adorable. Like, look how sweet Nicole is taking care of this poor puppy. I ended up being the one who took it to the vet, who bought the food, who cleaned up when it made messes. Nicole played with it when it was convenient, and ignored it when it required actual work. And then came the modeling portfolio thing. Nicole was like 18 or 19 at that point. She'd already finished high school but was living with us while deciding what to do with her life. She decided she wanted to be a model, I needed a professional portfolio that cost $2,500. I suggested she get a part-time job to save up for that it would be a good way to show commitment to her goal. She laughed in my face, literally laughed, and said something like, "Part-time jobs are for people without options." Jennifer didn't defend her on that exactly, but she didn't confront her either. I ended up paying half the portfolio because Jennifer begged me to invest in her daughter's dreams. Every time I tried to talk to Jennifer about setting boundaries, about making Nicole more responsible, she got defensive. She'd tell me things like, "You don't understand what it's like to be a single mother," or "She suffered a lot with her father's abandonment," or "You're being too hard on her." And I was like, I wanted to be understanding. I wanted to be a good stepfather. But I could also see how Nicole was completely spoiled and increasingly manipulative. There was this pattern where Nicole would ask for something, I'd say no. She'd cry or throw a tantrum. Jennifer would feel guilty, and I'd end up giving in to keep the peace. It was exhausting. The straw that broke the camel's back was when Nicole, who was now 20 and still living with us without paying rent or contributing in any meaningful way, came up with this business idea. She wanted to start a skincare product line, needed $7,000 to get started. I asked her about her business plan, her market research, her financial projections, anything that showed she'd thought this through seriously. She had nothing. Absolutely nothing, just vague ideas about selling products on Instagram. I told her no. That $7,000 was a lot of money to invest in something without any kind of planning or preparation, and that if she really wanted to do this, she should start smaller, do research, maybe take some classes on business or entrepreneurship. Nicole got furious, started yelling about how I never supported her, how I was always negative about her ideas, how Jennifer had made a mistake marrying me. Jennifer tried to calm her down but was also looking at me like I was the bad guy for not just handing over the money. That night, Nicole didn't come down for dinner. We heard loud music coming from her room for hours. I thought it was just another one of her tantrums, that it would pass in a few days like always. I was completely wrong about what was coming next. 2 days later, Jennifer confronted me. We were in the kitchen. I'd just gotten home from work, and she had this expression on her face I'd never seen before, like a mix of horror and fury. She told me we needed to talk, that Nicole had told her something very serious about me. My first honest thought was total confusion. I had no idea what she was talking about. Jennifer started crying and told me that Nicole had accused me of inappropriate behavior toward her. That, according to Nicole, I'd been making comments about her body, looking at her uncomfortably, and had even tried to enter her room without knocking several times. I can't even explain what I felt in that moment. It was like a combination of absolute shock, indignation, fear, all hitting me at the same time. I told Jennifer that was completely false, that I'd never done anything remotely inappropriate with Nicole, that we weren't even alone in the house most of the time because I worked long hours. Jennifer said she wanted to believe me, but she had to believe her daughter first, and that women don't lie about these things. I tried to reason with her. Ask her why Nicole would wait 2 days after our discussion about money to make these accusations. Point out how suspicious the timing was. But Jennifer didn't want to listen. Nicole stayed in her room, refused to talk to me directly. Jennifer suggested that maybe I should leave the house for a while until we sorted this out. Not only was I being falsely accused, but I was basically being kicked out of my own house, a house I'd owned before I even met them. I told Jennifer I wasn't leaving, that this was my house, and that if anyone didn't feel comfortable, Nicole was welcome to move in with friends or family until we cleared up the situation. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stayed awake thinking about how my life could fall apart so quickly because of false accusations. I knew enough stories of men whose lives were destroyed by this kind of thing, where even if their innocence was eventually proven, the damage to their reputation was permanent. The next day, I called a lawyer, one who specialized in family law and defamation cases. He told me I needed to be very careful, to document everything, not to put myself in situations where I was alone with Nicole under any circumstances, and to start gathering any evidence that could prove my innocence. I also called Lisa, my ex-wife. I know it sounds weird, but I needed to talk to someone who knew me well, someone who could give me an outside perspective. Lisa got furious when I told her, said those accusations were ridiculous, that she'd been married to me for years and never saw even a hint of inappropriate behavior of any kind. She asked me if I thought this had to do with the money I'd denied Nicole, and when she said it out loud, it all made sense. This was a manipulation tactic, a way to punish me for not giving her what she wanted, and possibly a way to extort me to get the money eventually. I started gathering evidence systematically. First, I installed voice-activated recorders in common areas of the house, the kitchen, the living room, completely legal because it was my property and they were shared spaces. Then I compiled all the footage from the security cameras I had at the house entrances, reviewed months of recordings to demonstrate there were never suspicious patterns in my movements. I saved all the text messages between Nicole and me, where you could see our interactions were minimal and completely appropriate. I talked to neighbors who could testify to my character, including an older couple who lived next door and had known Nicole since she moved in. I also reviewed Nicole's social media. She had a public Instagram account where she posted constantly, and I found posts from just 2 weeks before her accusations where she tagged me in family photos with captions about being grateful for her family and blessed to have a stepfather who cares. Screenshot all of that. My lawyer said that was gold. It showed there was no fear or discomfort on her part before I denied her the money. What really changed everything was when the voice recorders captured something incredible. Nicole was talking on the phone with a friend in the kitchen, thinking she was alone in the house. I was working and Jennifer had gone out shopping. I heard her completely admit she was lying. She said verbatim, "And I have this recorded." Like, obviously he didn't do anything, but my mom believed me immediately when I told her. And now he's scared. He'll probably give me the money just to shut me up. Her friend asked if she didn't feel bad about ruining someone's life with lies, and Nicole laughed. She laughed and said something like, "He's a rich man. He'll survive. Besides, this is what he gets for treating me like I'm an irresponsible child." I had evidence she was lying, in her own words, admitting her manipulation plan. But my lawyer advised me to keep gathering more before confronting anything, because we wanted an absolutely airtight case. So I waited, kept documenting, kept living in this toxic atmosphere where Jennifer barely spoke to me, and Nicole looked at me with this smug smile every time our paths crossed. Then Nicole made the mistake of her life. She sent me a text message, one she clearly thought was smart but was incredibly stupid. She basically tried to extort me directly. The message said something like, "We could resolve this easily. Give me $50,000, and I'll retract everything I said. If not, I can make this much worse for you. I can go to the police. I can tell your coworkers. I can ruin your life." $50,000. Can you believe it? She'd escalated from $7,000 for her fake business to $50,000 for her extortion scheme. Screenshot the message immediately. Forwarded it to my lawyer, who basically said Nicole had just admitted not only that she was lying, but that she was committing an actual crime. Extortion is a serious offense, not just something resolved in family court. My lawyer advised me to respond, but carefully, in a way that would get her to commit more without me admitting guilt or agreeing to her demands. I responded something like, "I need to think about this. Can we talk in person?" She agreed, probably thinking she'd won. I prepared my phone to record video and audio of the conversation, which was legal in our state with one-party consent. Laws. Nicole and I met in the living room. Jennifer was upstairs in her studio, with no idea what was happening. Nicole started confidently, like repeating her demands, saying that if I simply gave her the money, she'd tell her mom she'd misinterpreted my actions and was willing to forgive and move forward. I asked her directly if she was admitting she'd lied. About everything. She hesitated for a moment, then basically said, "Call it whatever you want. The point is, I can make this disappear for a price." I had everything I needed. Video of her admitting her extortion scheme, audio recordings of her confessing she'd lied to her friend, text messages with money demands, social media evidence showing there was no problem. Before I denied her the money. Neighbor testimonies, security camera footage, everything. My lawyer and I prepared a complete evidence package and decided it was time for the final confrontation. I arranged a meeting with Jennifer and Nicole, told them we needed to resolve this once and for all. Jennifer arrived with this protective attitude toward Nicole. Nicole arrived with her arrogant smile, thinking she'd won. I put my laptop on the kitchen table and started playing the recordings. First, the conversation with her friend where she admitted to lying, then the video of our conversation where she tried to extort me, then the text messages demanding money. Watching Jennifer's face change from defensive to confused to horrified was one of the saddest moments of my life, because I could see the exact moment she realized her daughter hadn't just lied, but had been maliciously manipulative. Nicole tried to deny it at first, like saying the recordings were out of context, that I'd edited them, but there was too much evidence, too many pieces that fit together perfectly. Jennifer turned to Nicole and asked her directly if she'd lied about everything, and Nicole finally admitted it, but with this attitude of, "Well, it wasn't that big a deal either. I was just trying to get what I deserved." Jennifer collapsed in tears, started apologizing to me over and over, saying she couldn't believe what her daughter had done, that she should have believed me from the beginning. But the damage was done. My trust in Jennifer was completely destroyed. Not so much because she'd initially believed her daughter, I can understand that to some extent, but because even when I pointed out how suspicious the timing and inconsistencies were, she refused to even consider it, chose to expel me from my own house without any real investigation of the accusations. I told Jennifer I wanted a divorce and that both she and Nicole needed to move out of my house. Nicole tried to argue they couldn't just leave, like they needed time to find a place, but I'd already consulted this with my lawyer. I gave them 2 weeks to find another place and start moving, which was generous considering Nicole had committed an actual crime against me. Jennifer was devastated, kept asking that we try, that we go to therapy, that I not throw our marriage away over this. But I couldn't see past the fact that she'd been willing to believe the worst of me without evidence, while ignoring all the red flags about her daughter's behavior for years. I hired a locksmith to change all the locks in the house the same day. I wasn't going to risk Nicole doing something more reckless. I also installed additional cameras because my lawyer warned me that cornered people sometimes do desperate things. Jennifer and Nicole moved to a small apartment in 10 days. Jennifer looked like a zombie during the entire moving process. Nicole alternated between crying and looking at me with pure hatred. I thought that would be the end, that I could finally start rebuilding my life. But Nicole decided to make one last desperate move. She created a GoFundMe and posted a story on her social media about how her abusive stepfather had thrown her and her mother out on the street for no reason, how they were struggling financially, how they needed help finding a safe place. The story went viral in her social circle. She started receiving messages of support and donations from people who didn't know the real story. But then some of her old friends, people who'd been aware of her manipulations for years, started telling the truth. They posted screenshots of conversations where Nicole had admitted to lying, shared stories about other times she'd manipulated situations to get what she wanted, basically exposed her pattern of behavior completely. The GoFundMe was reported and shut down. Nicole's posts were flooded with comments calling her a liar and manipulator. Her reputation in our community basically disintegrated in a matter of days. Jennifer lost some friendships too, people who felt she'd been complicit in Nicole's behavior by never setting appropriate boundaries or real consequences. Her relationship with Nicole also deteriorated because she was finally seeing her daughter for what she really was and had to deal with the fact that she'd raised this person. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Jennifer and Nicole fought constantly in their new apartment, that Nicole blamed her for ruining her life by not keeping me under control. It was relatively straightforward because we had a prenup that specified any property from before the marriage remained separate, and the house was mine before I met Jennifer. I didn't have to pay her alimony because our marriage lasted less than 5 years, and she had a stable job. Basically, everyone took their stuff, and we went our separate ways, no longer sharing any property or finances beyond dividing some household items we'd bought together. Lisa, my ex-wife, was incredibly supportive through all of this. She let me stay in her guest house during the most intense part of the situation when I needed to get out of my own house for a while to maintain sanity. She listened to me vent, helped me keep perspective, even wrote a statement for my lawyer testifying to my character. It was a strange but welcome reminder that healthy relationship endings exist, that not all exes have to be enemies. My professional reputation came out basically intact because I acted quickly and had solid evidence before Nicole could spread her lies very far. Some colleagues heard rumors, but when I explained the situation and showed evidence of her extortion attempt, they understood. One of my coworkers had actually gone through something similar with a family member and was incredibly understanding about the whole process. I decided to step back from some volunteer work I did with youth organizations, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because I didn't want even the possibility of someone questioning my intentions or motives after being falsely accused. It's sad, because I enjoyed that work, but the reality is that for men in my situation, you have to be extra careful about anything involving minors after false accusations, even when they've been completely debunked. It's just safer for everyone involved. Nicole tried to contact me once, like a month after the divorce. She sent me a long message apologizing, saying she was in therapy, that she realized now what she'd done, that she hoped someday I could forgive her. I didn't respond. My lawyer advised me to maintain zero contact, and honestly, I have no desire to have this person in my life in any form. Some actions are simply unforgivable, and falsely accusing someone of that kind of behavior, especially as a calculated manipulation tactic, is one of them. Jennifer has also tried to contact me a few times, mainly apologizing and updating me on how Nicole is supposedly working on herself. I responded once, briefly, saying I appreciated the apologies, but needed to move forward with my life without any connection to her or Nicole. I blocked her number after that. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. I can't keep healing if I keep getting dragged back into the drama. I've been living alone in my house for 3 months now, and it's weird how it simultaneously feels liberating and lonely. Liberating because I don't have to walk on eggshells or worry about the next drama Nicole's going to create. Lonely because I'd started imagining a future with Jennifer before all this exploded. I'm in therapy now, processing not just the false accusations but also my role in allowing the situation to get so far, my inability to stand firm on boundaries from the beginning. My therapist says I need to work on trusting my own judgment about people and situations because this experience has made me doubt my ability to read people a lot. I believed Jennifer was someone I could build a life with. I believed Nicole was just a spoiled young girl who would eventually mature. I didn't see any of their manipulations coming until it was almost too late. That makes you wonder what else. You're missing about the people in your life, you know. I've reconnected with some old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I've been focusing on my work. I've started hiking on weekends with a local hiking group. Small steps toward rebuilding a life that feels like mine again, not defined by someone else's drama or someone else's emotional needs. It's a slow process, I'm not gonna lie, but it's progress. The last update I heard about Nicole is that she's working in retail now, which is ironic considering how she made fun of part-time jobs when I suggested it to her. Apparently, she left social media completely after her reputation crumbled so publicly, or at least her public accounts. She probably has private accounts I don't know about. Part of me wonders if she really learned anything from this, or if she just learned to be more careful about getting caught. But honestly, it's not my problem to figure out. What I learned from all this, I guess, is that parenting matters way more than people want to admit. Jennifer spent years overcompensating for guilt about Nicole's absent father, never setting real boundaries, always finding excuses for selfish behavior. And the result was a young adult who thought she could manipulate her way through life without consequences. And when she finally encountered real consequences, her instinct was to go nuclear with false accusations instead of taking responsibility. That doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of years of allowing and enabling. I also learned that you need to trust your instincts even when you love someone. I knew Nicole was spoiled. I knew Jennifer was too permissive. But I kept telling myself it wasn't my place to intervene. That I didn't fully understand the situation because I wasn't a biological parent. I should have maintained my boundaries from the beginning. I should have insisted on real consequences for Nicole's behavior. I should have given Jennifer an ultimatum much earlier about the need for proper parenting. Maybe it wouldn't have changed anything in the end, but at least I wouldn't be sitting here wondering if I could have prevented this whole nightmare. 2 weeks ago, a friend asked me if I'd ever get married again, and honestly, I don't know how to answer. The idea of trusting someone at that level again, of combining lives and homes and finances again, of potentially dealing with stepchildren again, just feels overwhelming right now. Maybe with time and more therapy, I'll feel different. But right now, I'm okay alone, rebuilding my life one piece at a time and learning to trust myself again before trying to trust someone else. Last night, I was sitting on my porch with a beer, looking at the quiet neighborhood, thinking about how different my life looks now compared to a year ago. All that drama, all those accusations, all that pain, and in the end, it all comes down to this. I'm alone in a house that was always mine. Jennifer and Nicole are dealing with the consequences of their actions somewhere that's no longer my problem, and life goes on. It's not the happy ending I imagined when I married Jennifer, but I guess it's the honest ending. And right now, that has to be enough.